Chaga's just about ready. I wanted to talk about conspiracies today. I think it's always important for the critically minded to look at all the possibilities. I think that really creates the most sound position when you're looking to try to come to some type of conclusion, right? You know, there's a lot of great studies out there in all these different fields, and one of the things that's been boggling my mind is to see this repeated pattern by people. First off, it wasn't as bad as the flu, or do you know anyone that has COVID-19? Not that those are conspiracies, but it started to branch off into 5G. Now, I wanted to talk about this particular aspect because I think it's important to understand that there is some credibility to the notion of EMF waves being bad for the human body. I 100% agree with this. You know, if you've been watching the Arcane Bear for a while, you know we've been interested in what's called the grand solar minimum. And the sun goes through cycles of phases, essentially. And through all these phases, it ends up creating all these different, essentially, wave properties of the sun. Sometimes she's really mellow. Other times she's really crazy. Now, the 5G idea is that, okay, there's this crazy new EMF radiation, and apparently every time they turn on the 5G, people are having radiation poisoning, and that it's expressing itself as COVID-19. Let's just look at this theory for a second, because the only reason I believe it's credible is because I believe we live in an electronic magnetic universe, or what a lot of the high-end physicists call the hologram theory or the simulation theory, that this present version of reality that we get is not just the matter and the material that we see it to be. It's actually a function of a basically high level of electromagnetic interference, and that's where gravity kind of comes from. It's a new theory. So, and mind you, I'm not a credible scientist. I don't really know too much about it. The thing that I do know is that there is a great reason to believe that frequency and vibration are bad for the body. So this 5G theory is saying that the body is excreting the toxin, what looks like COVID-19, and that viruses are not alive and blah, blah, blah. It's mind-boggling. First off, yes, you're right. Viruses, they're not alive. They are usually single-strand RNA, which is a very simple version of DNA. And what they have is, specifically in coronaviruses, is an enveloped RNA strand that on the outside of that envelope are little tiny spike proteins. And these spike proteins in most of the respiratory viruses connect with what's called the ACE2 receptor in your lungs. And that's why it ends up infecting your lungs. You end up getting a respiratory illness, very similar to the other coronaviruses that we've seen in the past. They bind to this ACE2 receptor. Now, once that receptor is essentially the cell sees this RNA spike protein, it thinks it's a protein that it can use, it takes it in, and then all of a sudden that RNA strand is now in the way of what the DNA would normally recreate, which is more healthy cells in your body, and it starts creating this new RNA strand, and it keeps repeating the virus and infects the rest of your cells. And this continues over and over again. Now, this particular virus is very tricky. It's doing some things we have never seen any other viruses do. I won't get too much into that. But today I wanted to talk about the conspiracy, specifically about how I do not think it has anything to do with 5G. I'm currently here in the middle of the fucking jungle, in the middle of nowhere. Right? And there are people that have caught this virus that are just south of us. Maybe only 50 kilometers. Now, for anyone that knows anything about 5G, you need a minimum of I think it's around 200 to 500 meters between each 5G tower that you would put up. And it's a very low width, so high frequency band range, around 60 to 90 hertz. So it's what they call a millimeter wave, and it cycles very, very short, where a lot of the radio waves we use are really long. You can imagine them more like this type of wave, whereas 5G is like bang, 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 really, really quickly. So it can't travel very far. Not only that, if it has any break in the line of sight, like if a tree's in the way, it won't really work anymore. Now, the hypothesis is this is what's causing the virus, and that your body's excreting this toxicity of the 5G. But I'm sorry, that doesn't make any fucking sense. The only way it makes sense is if the sun is doing it. And that would be a part of the theory I could rely into, is that we might actually see more pandemics over the next decade because of this change in the solar frequency. And I've been a strong proponent of this for the last few years. I've thought that we might see pandemics before this happened on multiple occasions because of the sun. Now, if you want to do some theoretical breakdown, you could say, hey, maybe we're in the apocalypse. These prophets were not that bad at what they did. In fact, they were probably a little good at it. And in that prophecy, they said we could suspect to see some type of plague near the end of the apocalypse, right? Plagues even. I suspect that the change in the solar magnetic frequency is one of the reasons why we're seeing these viruses kick up. And I do not believe it is going to be the last one. This might be a really big one in comparison. Now, I could be wrong. I don't really know. I'm just talking shit. But what I would like to do is, at least if we're going to get into the mode of conspiracies, let's take a look at the sun. The sun is the biggest creator of EMF frequencies on the planet, and she changes all the time. For better or for worse, we know that this planet has been riddled in cataclysm after cataclysm. Cheers to the Chaga. Gangsters out there drinking Chaga in the middle of the jungle. Oh, she's hot. But the dangerous thing is that when we start to see the internet flooded with all of these 5G conspiracies, which are bullshit, like 98% positive about that, or all these people that are talking about it not being worse than the flu, and the CDC and the WHO somehow not being better at giving information than anybody else on the planet, is really disconcerting. And what ends up happening, and this is why I don't believe in conspiracies anymore, is that the governments come in to start to rein in control so that there can be a better dissemination of information, because there's a bunch of fucking bullshit out there. The idea that Bill Gates is in charge of this big conspiracy to get rid of a bunch of people. You know, I used to think that crap was true when I was younger, when I was naive, and I wasn't that well educated about the world. But as I started to learn more about business, I realized that's impossible. It's hard enough to get people to conspire to create a bunch of positive movement. And, you know, Amazon is a great function here. Look at this, right? A monopoly in so many senses of the word. How many people does it hire? How many lives has it changed? That wasn't a grand conspiracy. That was one guy doing his thing, right? Making trillions of dollars from it. So I can see that in the past, we've had one person who's been fucking crazy. We've got like Hitler, Genghis Khan, Mao, Stalin, and they end up being part of genocides, right? That's one person. That's not this Illuminati cabal. Those people don't like collaborating with other people. The people that do that shit are usually megalomaniacs who are narcissistic and so, what do you call it? Sociopathic or psychopathic, that they don't have a general ability to collaborate with a bunch of people for some grand conspiracy. So what I realized is that, this might be inevitable. If the sun's doing it, kicking up pandemics, goes through these changes. We have prophets from thousands of years ago in the Hebrew Bible saying, hey, you should probably keep your eye out for these particular things that will come in the future. Have these waves just been set in motion? Like, as a surfer, I know if I go out into the water and I'm riding the waves, I don't really have a choice in how that wave plays out. It may have actually almost been predestined that wave would express itself that particular way because of all the other side effects in the universe that are pushing that momentum in this particular direction. I don't think that there's some grand conspiracy to control the world or get us all stuck into an electronic system, but I do think that it might be inevitable. I think that there's been so much momentum into our species growing to where it is today that it might be inevitable that we have vaccine and ID cards. Look, if I want to fly from Chile to Costa Rica, I need my yellow fever vaccine card to get in here. And I did that when I was younger because I knew I needed it if I wanted to travel. So this whole idea of like, they're going to give everyone vaccine and ID cards, and this may have been inevitable. I actually think immunity cards are more likely that, okay, are you immune to the virus? Check, yes you are. Okay, you're allowed to travel. Other people, that when we can focus on the people that are at higher risk and get them into the places that need the support, etc. So a question for the conspiracy theorists is, well, if you have any inkling to understanding that this universe might be divine, or that there's some type of God, woman or man, whatever, however the fuck you'd like to think about it, if you take that belief, what is the purpose of all the negativity? What is the purpose in this storyline of meeting these bosses or these like negative characters? Are they there on purpose? And if they are there on purpose, do they just repeat forever so that every human experience has the opportunity to meet the challenges of making better choices? Is this an opportunity for humanity to overcome their differences and work together for a solution? Or will they make the same choice and give their power and freedoms away because of dumb shit conspiracy theories and people not listening and not intelligent or well educated enough to think critically to make the smart choice? I've been saying for months that we should be wearing masks. In the beginning of February, I made videos about N95 masks and how it stops us from fucking coughing everywhere, and that would reduce the rate of transmission because it's less likely that other people get shit on them. And instead, the CDC and the WHO come out and say the dumbest fucking shit ever, which is that masks don't do anything. And it doesn't take a very intelligent person to realize that they are full of shit. Obviously, masks make a difference. So the problem here is, now governments are going to start to come in and say, hey, don't leave your house. We're going to fine you, because people don't know to do what's right in the first place. They think, oh no, God will save me from this, right? Not understanding that God is mathematics and science in its purest form. If you look in the structure of the way the universe was created, it is laced with the divine fingerprint everywhere you look. The hand of God and his fingerprint is left all over this goddamn place. All over this God miracle place. This God amazing place. Whatever you want to say. I don't know. Point of this being, if I believe then that the universe is one, what's the point of all this devilishness? Is it part of the game? And that's my question for you today. Do you think that these conspiracies are real, or do you think that they're there as a distraction for consciousness itself to not stay focused on what's important? Yes, we have obstacles we need to overcome, but we cannot do it by simply believing in our own nonsense. We are moving into a reality where we have to learn to agree on what reality is. Otherwise, we're going to lose it. We're going to lose touch, and we're all going to slip into our own little delusional worlds again. For the human species to come together across the globe, it's going to take everyone seeing a very similar reality and agreeing on some things that we don't normally agree upon. Yeah, believe whatever you want, believe whatever God you'd like to believe in, whatever religion you'd want to do. But know that at the end of the day, there's certain things that, aside from having a positive mindset, will not change. You cannot jump off a cliff no matter how many people in the world believe that you can fly. You will not fly. There are rules to this game, and they have consequences. And even though we haven't seen that in a while, I think we're about to see it again for the first time. Steel with the Arcane Bear. I don't believe any of these conspiracies. It looks like a virus to me. It looks like a pandemic. We knew this was inevitable. And Nassim Taleb actually made a great little post of the day saying this wasn't even a black swan. This was a white swan. We knew this happened. It has happened, and it will happen again. Stay with the Arcane Bear. Stay positive, ladies and gentlemen. Stay healthy. Go enjoy the outside if you can. I am blessed enough to be able to just hike out into the middle of the jungle. It rained last night, so there was no starting a regular fire. Give us this thumbs up if you like this content. If you're new to the Bear family, this is all over the place. We work a lot in investments and trading in the financial sector. That's how we give ourselves the time to sit in the jungle and pontificate. I really appreciate all your guys' support. It's been a long week. But I hope you're enjoying your quarantine. Do something creative, call your loved ones, and we'll see you guys again on the other side.